Together with a few friends, I'm building a wiki for vegetables and how to plant them in an agroecological approach. And it's very much reliant on structured content. It has a lot of potential structure we can put to a given vegetable. And we are iterating as we go, as we actually populate the content, because we really want to make it about the content. So we're learning as we go. And in the process of us actually seeding and planting the vegetables, we are learning about them, reaching out for external sources, gathering knowledge from friends and things like that. And also in the process of actually using Sanity to populate this content, we're realizing how content could be different. So whether better structured or easier to populate or more loyal to the actual ideas behind it. So one example is when we started with the pictures, they have a label, they also have sources, and we need to credit the owners or whoever posted the picture. Usually we get it from the web. Sometimes it's us. We started with this idea of the credits as being just a text box, and then you can share a source URL if you have it. And this works okay, but then we started realizing that sometimes it's actually us who are uploading the pictures. So it's our pictures, and we would like to point that to actually people in the website, because it's a website with user accounts. So it would be ideal to be able to select that. So there was another iteration that we did, which was recommendations and tips. They initially were just a plain text box, and then they become an array of objects that are a little bit more complex and allow us to support a design that is closer to our vision. In the process of doing that, we actually experimented with this idea of sources as an array. So instead of you just saying where it comes from and the URL, you can actually add multiple sources, which I doubt it will happen all that much, but it is a possibility. There are a few cases we've mapped out that it's the case. But more importantly, you can choose whether the source is from someone from inside the website. So a person who has a user account on the website, or if it's external. And then that to us became the clear source. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how I approach this sort of content migration with Sanity. Hopefully the explanation of how this content model evolved is not necessary given the story, but let me know if you have any questions and if you want to think more deeply about the actual motivation for the schemas. In this video, I'll focus more on the actual technicalities. All right, so I've migrated the schema itself. So I've deprecated the credit and source root level fields for photos with credits, which are the schema powering these photos. And now you can see in the UI that they are obsolete. And there is a field or a note letting users know why that is. And then below it, we now have the sources, which is the final thing. If I take a look at how it works, if I open sources, it is now an array of either source.go.up as user, so someone from the website, or external. I guess I could rename it to just source.user to make it simpler. And then, yeah, so now that is there. I could go manually over all the photos that we've uploaded, which by now are about 60, so it's not that much. But again, we can use Sanity migrate for that. So to create the migration, the first thing I'll do is open up my terminal and I'll run Sanity migration create. And then the title of the migration, which in this case will be transform all sources to array of objects. Type of documents to migrate. Right now, I'm just working with the vegetable migration or the vegetable document type. And I'll start with this. So I'll open the file and I can see they've provided me with a nice API. So the first thing is this migration is not only to change photo with credits, but also in vegetable, where we are inside of tips, and then we have sources, etc. We have these old types. So one old type is good about user reference, which is now source.user. And the other one will be external reference. So likewise. So really what we want is an array. So type renamed types. That is an array. So there. And now external reference. And let's just do because it's already okay. So that's about it. And now what I'll do is I'll go if renamed types. So I'll do the migration. I'll cut this part and then explain the code later. So first, I've changed the Gororobas user reference and also external reference to the types specified here under new. So I just search for the rename types to see if the current object's type is one of the old ones. Then we set at the object's type, we set the new one. So that's pretty simple. Just a note is that we can't change the type of a document in Sanity. So for the case of documents, you actually need to recreate them in a different type. But for objects, this is pretty simple. I just want to also come back here and just say that sources is of type sources. Don't need to include all of that here. Okay, so that's it for renaming the tips that we already have here. So currently these tips are with the wrong type. Okay, so next is actually changing the photo with credits. So what I will do is if object dot type equals photo with credits, then I'll do something about it. I'll also pause here. Okay, so another step is taking any object of type photo with credits, and then if it does not have a credit string, or if its sources are already populated, let's just skip it, assuming it has nothing to be migrated or it's already been migrated. And then let's construct the source object based on that schema that we have. So again, we have source.external, and then we can take that in and just say okay, credits in the source based on the object, and then just set an array with that object as a single entry and then setting then the credits. So in the end, what we'd have is removing these two root level credits and source properties, and then including the array, which by the way, I'll make required with a minimum amount of one source. Okay, another change that I'm making in this migration in the same vein is before for the vegetable varieties. I don't know if I have any here. Let's chapter one. This. So before vegetable varieties, we also only had one image per variety. Now we're going to have multiple. Unfortunately, I broke it. But yeah, we can see it's only one image, and then we had the credits. But now we're actually going to make an array of photos, because we could have, for example, the seed of a given variety is different than the others. So it's useful to include that photo. We're still debating how much we're going to populate of this, because every extra bit of structure, we actually need to maintain it as content creators. But it's a start, just something for us to think about. In any case, it's useful to have that possibility. Now we're going to use the array photo or the schema photo with credits, which already includes the sources, etc. So then we don't actually need these credits and sources anymore inside of the root of the vegetable. So let's also do that. So one challenge with this specific schema is that I was quite lazy and I did not name this schema. So I just said it's, variety is an array of type object. Ideally, I would come in here and I would go into my objects folder and I would say variety, or I guess vegetable variety .ts, and then I would export const vegetable variety close define views, or I guess, I don't know, I don't remember, define schema or object or define type. And then I would take all of these and move that in here, and I would give it a name of vegetable variety. You got the idea. It's kind of hard to type as I speak. But then I would be able to come into my migration, which, by the way, I actually want to rename this and just do 2024, the date of today, 10, and then we get the name. There we go. Just a personal preference. So I would be able to come in here and then say, if object type is vegetable variety, yada, yada, yada. I did not do that. So I cannot simply just run the migration based on the object type. And there is nothing here that tells me this is a unique object. Varieties could come from anywhere. It's just a plain object with names and media. So my way of circumventing this is I'm actually going to migrate also a document node, which takes in document. And if I'm not mistaken, there we go. So I would just say const varieties equals document.varieties, if I'm not mistaken, or an empty array. I'll just, for TypeScript reasons, I'll just say as any. And then I'll go for each of them. So if varieties.length equals 0, I'll just return, do nothing about this document. Otherwise, I will just return varieties.map. So for each variety, I'll come in here and I'll return an at. How do I do this? So I need to find a path for the varieties array for the index of this specific variety. And then I'll say media, and then I'll do something about it, which I'll get in a bit. So const media equals, for now, let's just do an empty array. And actually, I need to set media. Then why is it complaining? I do think also I need to do a flat map, perhaps, because I need to do multiple things. So let's just do flat map. So for each variety, we'll do many operations. So for one, we unset the credits and we unset the source. And then we need to set the media to be of type photo with credits. Let's try photo with credits. It's media. Okay. Then we have label credits and source. I also realized actually I don't want to call this for the variety. I don't want to call these media. Let's call it photos because we do have another array of photos. So this just becomes a little bit more standardized. So let's actually make photos. Okay. So coming back, we have credits and source from the variety. So I can do variety.credits, variety.sources. Now we're building that. And also, of course, we need a key, which I'm not sure if sanity migrate has a function for that. So in this case, I could either do it myself, because I do think sanity has a generate key not sure, perhaps it does not. So I could build this myself, or I could just use insert. So I could say set if missing. So also if variety dot photos, then I'll return, because that means it already exists. And I'll just skip this. So otherwise, I'll just say for the photos array, let's set if missing, and then we'll just say insert there photo. Then I can just say photo insert now need to be imported from sanity migrate. And it's asking me to, I guess, let's just do append then. It adds to the end. So we start the photos array with an empty array. Then we append this specific photo and let sanity handle the key. And then we unset the credits in the source. So in theory, this is it. All right. So I am not sure if this will work. So just take that. So let's do bun sanity. I'm using bun. You could just install the sanity CLI globally and just run sanity. Doesn't really matter. And then I'll just say, I'll tell sanity to run this migration, and it will run it and give me a preview of what it looks like, what it will actually run. I can see from the list, it's nothing that I cannot review myself. So let's just go over run very quickly. So I can see for the vegetable X that, or I guess this is for ads, that we are setting for the photos with the key X, that we're adding this source of type external, credits this, source this, and then we unset that. So this is for the photos array using the new photo with credits migration, which is perfect. It's what we want. Then likewise for the other, I want to skip to tips. There you go. So now it's setting the type to source external, because before it had this external reference type that isn't correct. Then see many examples of this. Again, just setting the sources as an array. So I would do this sort of processing over, which I'll skip on video, but just make sure you're actually doing the modifications you actually want to have. I've reviewed thoroughly planned migrations and transformations. It looks as expected, and I think we got it right the first time. But of course, before I do that, I'll just ask sanity to backup. So sanity database, I'm not really sure. Dataset, export from, and then I'll just say export production, and I'll do no assets in this case, because the assets won't really change. I'm not very worried about that. And I'll just say goes to migrations 2024 04 10. So the date of today, tar.gzip. There we go. So now I got the store of the entire data set here as something I can re-import back if needed. Hopefully that won't be necessary. Anyways, I skipped again assets just because it would bloat the. I've done it on April 1st, so I'm fine. And also this migration is not changing any assets, so we're good. Okay, so just to recap before I actually run this, we've changed a few types of objects. We've seen the issues of not naming an object. Specifically, now I need to do this much more complex setup of having to find in the full document the specific objects I'm trying to modify, keeping track of their indexes, making these add statements that are much more complicated, only to go in the end, and then having to do more work essentially. So in the future, I guess what I could do here is just also, let's take the chance to set type of vegetable variety. And then later I can migrate the schema to use that. Actually, I almost accidentally broken the whole thing. So I'll just set the type of these varieties to be vegetable variety. We've seen how we can, in a single migration, use both a document node as well as an object node. How in an object node, we can really base our work on top of the underscore type, which really helps. So for the case of photos with credits, we can just add the source to the array as the modification I did in the schema. And in the end, we can unset the fields we no longer need. If this was a production piece of work that is live, I would not unset it. I would make sure everything is published. So I would split this migration in two. One is setting the new data, the other is unsetting the old one. Also because content editors would be using the studio, etc. In this case, I do have a little more leeway to just go and run. So now that I'm ready to go, I can just say, don't really remember. 1 second. Is I can do no dry run, which then will prompt Sanity to run the migration. This dataset and this project ID, I am sure of it. And then mutations were generated. A single transaction was committed, which is great. And you can see how fast this is. So Sanity has done a really amazing job on this API, on this experience. I'm pretty happy. So now if I come back, I should now see if I open a photo. Yes, I could somehow. Let me try refreshing just to be safe. But yeah, the idea would be that I would see that. Should have read it before. Okay. I don't see it. I'll take a look at what happened. But you got the idea. And that's the workflow I'm using for schema management in Sanity. And this is just liberating me to be much bolder about my content structure and just how I evolve it over time. So yeah, thank you for watching. Sorry for the rambly video. Hopefully this was useful somehow. And reach out questions or if you'd like to work together. Have a great day. A quick addendum and parentheses at the end. The sources did work for photos. I was just looking at some that did not have them. And also, I realized I actually got it wrong with the varieties. I built the photo with credits for them incorrectly with all the sources. I actually use the source as a string and so I was like this before. So what I'm doing now is just I'm committing all the rest of the of the migration, just adding this glue code to, or not glue code, but just like a very quick and dirty way of modifying this. So I'm just setting for the photos, the label, which was missing, is the variety name. And then for the sources, I'm setting it as an array and then using that to populate it. And then when I look at it, then there you go, I do get. But unfortunately, I do think I lost the source. So what I could do is I could go over, I guess, perhaps not sources. Let me check. Yeah, I did lose the sources, I believe. I just want to make sure that is not the case. If it is, then I'll make use of my... Yes, I lost the URL of these. Okay, so again, another reason why you should probably just split your migration in two, one for setting the new data, another for unsetting after everything is fine, as well as the value of running backups. Anyways, I'll have it fixed, and thank you for watching.